Backwards compatibility for many years seemed nothing more than a wild dream that would never be achievable on consoles. The business model for both Xbox and PlayStation seemed very simple: sell as many consoles as you possibly can to gain the biggest share of the market. This meant that every generation players would go out and buy a brand new machine. If you wanted to continue playing your old games, you would have to keep your old console plugged into your TV. As you can imagine, this was too tedious for most, and as a result, many classics fell to the wayside, forgotten by the consumer, never to be played again. PlayStation dabbled in some backwards compatibility during the PlayStation 3 days by rebuilding a PlayStation 2 inside of the PlayStation 3, making it possible to play previous generation of games, but they very quickly abandoned that idea. Enter Xbox in 2015 when they announced backwards compatibility for the Xbox One by stating that pretty much all of the Xbox 360 library would now be playable on the current generation console. Many were skeptical of this new program, unsure of exactly how Xbox would pull off such a feat, but to everybody's surprise they managed to do it. Not only could you now play Xbox 360 titles on your Xbox One, but they were also coming with a bit of a boost, playing better than ever before. The Xbox team individually went into each game and increased the frame rates to ensure that the player would get the best possible gaming experience. In many cases, old classics would now be playable in 60 and even 120 frames. What followed for Xbox was the announcement of the Xbox Series consoles, and by that point they already fully committed to backwards compatibility. This time not just for the previous generation of consoles, but for every generation of consoles. Microsoft announced that the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X would be playable for all three generations of games, dating back all the way to the original Xbox. Not just some titles would be available, but all the titles would be playable with the exception of a very few. Xbox once again announced an FPS boost program, committing that games will not only be playable, but they will also be boosted to 60 and 120 frames to give players the best possible gaming experience when playing old titles. This was not just about playing old games, but also about preserving games. PlayStation tried to emulate, but unfortunately fell short and only released their PlayStation 4 library on the PlayStation 5. Xbox has stated though that through the course of this program they learned many things about game preservation, and not only from a technical standpoint, but also in the way that you approach game preservation going forward. It is not just about a bad port, but it is about a great gaming experience for the player, ensuring that they have the best possible version of a game at their disposal. When Minecraft designed the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S consoles, backwards compatibility was integrated into the silicon of the design to ensure that the feature would be better than ever before. Xbox stated that they are always thinking about future devices and future platforms and how they can ensure proper optimization for all titles past and present. This has opened the door not only for Xbox but for many other publishers as well, who now follow suit and also release next generation versions of their old games. Ubisoft, EA and many others are now preserving their own games, and in some cases even completely remaking it to ensure that the next generation of gaming fans get to experience those old classics. We have seen Rockstar come out with a remastered version of GTA, we have seen Saints Row come out with remastered versions of their games, and even Resident Evil delivered not only a remaster but a full-on remake of their games. As long as game companies continue this trend, games will forever be preserved.